can't believe you brought my daughter to this place.
Whoa. Why don't you just back the f up, man? To this place? What is that? Okay, right now, all over this great nation of ours, 100,000 white people from the suburbs are cruising around downtown, asking every black person they see, you got any drugs? You know where I can score some drugs? Think about the effect that that has on the psyche of a black person, on their possibilities. God, I guarantee you bring 100,000 black people into your neighborhood, into fucking Indian Hill, and they're asking every white person they see, you got any drugs? You know where I can score some drugs? Within a day, everyone would be selling. Your friends, their kids. Here's why. It's an unbeatable market force, man. It's a 300% markup value. You can go out on the street and make $500 in 2 hours, come back and do whatever you want to do with the rest of your day. And I'm sorry, you're telling me that white people will still be going to law school?
Wow. Did you know the movie was going to have the impact?
Yeah, well, again, I'll tell you what. Being a fan of Steven Soderbergh, the director, I knew that that screenplay, that script, would be amazing on film. Mm-hmm. And then I heard what the rest of the cast was. But this is not a movie review. We're not doing movie reviews here. but I'm talking about the timeliness of this film for this society.
Right.
And this problem that we're talking about. You told me that Ted Koppel did 5 nights on traffic and on the subject of that we're dealing with, that we're talking about today. The 5 of us are sitting here, and there's 5 of us. Right?
That actor is just saying America doesn't get it. You don't get it. Okay, we were talking. I'm going to say what I told you guys. I was at a very nice bar two weekends ago, and there were very nice young 30-something kids back there, and I noticed they're getting together and they're doing ecstasy in this very lovely bar where I'm going to have a steak.
Oh, it's crazy.
Judge, do you think America gets it?
Well, I think America's starting to get it. I mean, the movie dealt with the movement of drugs from Mexico here. You know, I sign warrants day in, day out for the manufacture now of methamphetamine in our neighborhoods. In our neighborhoods. You know, your neighbor next door could be having, cooking it up, and you would never know it.
Oh, the house could blow up next door.
The house could blow up, then you would know it, for sure. For sure. But I also think, again, coming to the back end, which unfortunately is where I see the folks, is, you know, Prop 36 would not have passed here in California, but for 61% of the voters saying whatever we're doing in terms of law enforcement and locking folks up, we're not getting it that way. We got to stop the demand. We have to get people into treatment, get them clean and sober, get their need, their drive for drugs down, and so now we've got a new approach, which we were just talking about before the show, how policy seems to go in cycles. You know, this isn't anything new. Javier has seen this before.
This isn't anything new. When I was 19 years old, we started a program called it Proyecto, oh my God, can't even remember, but
so long ago.
It was so long ago. It was in Oxnard, California, and essentially what we were doing is trying to implement a program that would get youthful offenders right when they're starting into the criminal system, get them out, pull them out, work with them, and try to deviate them.
That's great.
Get them out. But soon after, about 10 years after, that whole policy changed, and we saw everybody now wanting to incarcerate people, whether they were selling or using. That was the policy.
It's like the experiment failed.
Yeah, and this is why I'd say that even I agree with the judge about the back end of it, because I don't think this is a law enforcement issue. And this is where we've been taught that's where it belongs. But I think law enforcement has a place in it, except that we have to go back to what used to work, because I was on drugs for 7 years, and 30 years ago, I got out of drugs without a program. I got out of drugs because there was a lot of people in the community, mentors, teachers, people who saw people like me and said, you know what, you're wasting your life. Here's something to believe in. And I found that because that's the only way I could do it. And I think there's a way for us to interact with young people so that they have something that they believe in, something that's bigger, because the pull of drugs is great. That's why it is a recovery issue.
The attraction.
That's right, it's very powerful. But if you can instill in young people something bigger than that, I'm convinced it could happen. But if all we look at it, and this is where the policymakers come in, just law enforcement, we're going to have a situation the judge is explaining. From the back end, they can't entertain this kind of thing. But we know these things have to be looked at. The economy,
and the movie says it, right? Javier in the movie says, you better look at a message to America, you better start looking at Tijuana. You better start paying attention to them. And then he even gives an example how you can do it. Put a baseball field in there, you know, but not one. Put hundreds of them, you know, and start getting the kids involved in those kinds of activities.
So that at night they're on the baseball field, not running around with the.
And it was reinforced again in a scene where the czar is sitting with all his consultants, and he's asking, "Is there anyone from recovery or treatment here?"
Yeah.
You know, and no one's there for recovery or treatment.
The first attempt to think
speaks
outside
to
the box.
where it's lacking, where the policy's lacking.
What we got to do, I want to take a look at the results of, we do an e-poll, and we do it on Latino LA, and we go, we asked, which country is at the root of today's drug epidemic in the United States? These were the results, friends. 85% said the United States, 10% said Mexico, and 5% said Colombia. What do you think about those results? Is America getting it now?
Well, I think the debate is opened up, and that's important. But, you know, I was in Mexico and southern Chihuahua, where I saw the effects of the drug industry, the people that we don't see. Indians who are killed, people who are driven off their lands, people who are starving. There's some in Mexico you can see the effects, but over here we don't see that. All we see is the drug coming into our home. We're having a good time. We don't see that behind that in Colombia and all these countries people are dying and suffering just to keep this industry going. So we have to start connecting again. The border shouldn't be blinding us.
And again, there's a scene in the film I just remembered that where Tomas Millan plays General Salazar, who becomes Mexico's drug czar.
Right.
Right. But he's actually a member of the cartel. I mean, that's his main thing.
Everybody is two things in this movie.
He's got a double.
Nobody is what they are.
Yes, but he poses as the new drug czar. And when Michael Douglas, the character, the judge, the American drug czar, comes to see him and says, "What about treatment? Do you have what is your attitude on treatment?" And Salazar says,
"Treat themselves.
Treatment? Addicts, you know, take away their drugs and and slap them around, put them in a cage.
He said they treat themselves.
They treat themselves,
They die.
Right, exactly.
That's very.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys, what about marijuana? Is marijuana, Judge, to you? Is marijuana a drug legally?
I have to tell you, when I became a drug court judge, my son, who was about 12 at the time, said, "Mom, you're the worst person to be a drug court judge because you never inhaled or exhaled." So I have some probably definite personal opinions about it, but having worked a drug court program for 3 years with adults, every interview sheet that I looked at, the gateway drug was marijuana, and was at a very, very young age, sometimes as young as 10 years old, 11, 12, 13. So I can't advocate that marijuana should be legalized, that we should treat it less severely. I mean, I think it needs to have some penalty to it. I think kids need to understand that you may not ever outgrow the experimental stage. It may be the gateway into something else: cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, ecstasy, or whatever.
I think it lies in education. I think that the treatment of marijuana lies in education, like alcohol in education. In the home, you learn. You're taught that wine is not the same thing as orange juice, and so there's a respect that you have for that substance, for marijuana. I've seen the effects of marijuana. I've seen it in my family. I've seen it among my peers. I see it in the work world, where those people who start the day with marijuana, and those people who don't. Some people function fine on marijuana. There are medical.
It's Cheetos. That's what gives it away, right?
The Cheetos.
The people that are eating Cheetos by 9:30 in the morning. We'll be back with more Cafe California, brought to you by Cheetos, I guess, this morning. Just statistically, tobacco.